What I'm going to illustrate here is laminating with wood. Laminating can be applied to glass fabric or many other types of fabrics. And laminating is constructing a part with multiple layers of a particular product. In this case, I'm going to be using wood. This is a very, very important part of wooden boat restoration and makes life very, very easy, particularly when you're trying to create structure that has been damaged or has become rotten and unfit for purpose. Laminating with wood is using lots of thin layers to create a strong structure. Here I'm going to try and illustrate to you how you would laminate a short piece, maybe for a tiller for your own boat. But if you look at this piece, which is clearly an example of a laminated rib, then you can understand that this is made up of a number of thin, flexible layers, which create an incredibly strong and stiff structure that really, really is very, very durable. I'm going to stack all of these thin laminates over this former, which I've very, very quickly made. This took me 10 minutes of work. But of course you could make a curved former for a tiller, or you could, in the case of a rib, use the existing hull shape as a former, pushing layer by layer against the hull structure, maybe putting some plastic against the original hull, right next to a damaged frame, and this would give you the shape that you require to create your new laminated frame. Here is an illustration of how one goes about laminating a beam or a tiller or some structure using thin laminates of wood. First thing you need is a former to form the curvature, glued with our G5 5-minute epoxy and stapled in place just to secure it whilst the adhesive was curing. And I've got my laminates here that are spread out. Now I want to illustrate how powerful this two-step bonding process is by firstly priming the surface of these laminates with our resin hardener mix. And for that I'm going to use our 105 resin and our 205 hardener. You can see I've got the pumps installed here and I'm ready to meter this out. But of course, first of all, health and safety. I want to avoid skin contact, so I've got long sleeves on. I've got my nitrile gloves to give me maximum protection. And I've also got my safety specs to put on. So now I'm all prepared to avoid skin contact. I'm going to meter out 3 pumps of resin and 3 pumps of hardener. So 1 pump of resin, 1 pump of hardener, 1 pump of resin, 1 pump of hardener, and our 3rd pump of resin, and finally the 3rd pump of hardener. Now I'm going to spend 2 minutes blending the two together, and it's a good idea just to watch what you're doing here. It's quite clear when both the resin and hardener are blended together. You're looking for a homogeneous mix with a slight tint of honey colour, and we recommend that you spend 2 minutes doing this, making sure that you've got right into the corners of the mixing pot. These mixing pots are straight-sided, so there's no chance of any residue of unreacted material in the bottom of the pot. So I've now finished mixing for 2 minutes, and I'm going to dispense my resin hardener mix into my roller tray, just making sure that I get as much material out of my mixing pot as possible. Put the mixing pot back in. See, I'm still nice and clean. Then bring the roller tray to the work, and the first step in using a foam roller is to make sure that you've primed the foam, making sure that the foam is free from dust or any small scraps of waste foam. And then very, very carefully make sure that I displace all the air in the foam with the resin hardener mix. Once I've done that, I can load the foam roller up with more of the resin hardener mix, and then I can apply this to my laminates. Of course, the surfaces here are clean, dry and well abraded and prepared for this laminating process. And you can see quite clearly there's this strong colour change which indicates that the resin hardener mix is wicking into all these wood fibres and providing the best possible anchor for our glue joint. As you can see, I'm trying to work nice and cleanly, trying not to get too much mess everywhere. Does avoid you getting this on your skin or on your clothes. And I'm making sure that I've distributed the resin hardener mix nice and evenly over my thin laminates. This is the first part of our two-step bonding process. I'm going to leave this for about 20 minutes and then I'll return to it once the resin hardener mix is really wicked into those wood fibres. So now I'm ready to mix up my adhesive mix, and I'm going to do that using the same resin, the same hardener, but to that resin hardener mix I'm going to add our 403 microfibers, and I'm going to mix that to a kind of mayonnaise-y consistency so that it flows nicely. Now I think for this I'll probably need at least 4 pumps of resin and 4 pumps of hardener. 1 pump of resin, 1 pump of hardener, 1 pump of resin, 1 pump of hardener, so you can see now I've got quite an amount of resin hardener mix in my mixing pot. I want to spend 2 minutes mixing this, making sure I've got a homogeneous blend of both the resin and the hardener. So here again, 2 minutes later, and I've got a nice blend of the resin hardener mix. Now to that, I'm going to add the microfibers, and I'm going to use the scoop that's provided. I'm adding 4 scoops of this to my mix. And I blend the two together. This particular filler, the 403 microfibers, it blends very, very readily with the resin hardener mix. And you very, very quickly achieve a nice mayonnaise-y type consistency, which is fine for this type of processing. To spread this out evenly, I'm going to use an 809 notched spreader. Now you can see that this has got various sizes of teeth. The objective of using this is that it means I've got an evenly distributed quantity of the adhesive for my laminates. And I'm going to use the second biggest teeth on here, and that will give me a nice even spread of the adhesive mix. You can see how evenly this distributes the thickened mixed epoxy. Now I'm going to stack these one on top of the other. So I'm going to firstly stack this one, then secondly stack that one. Then I'm going to prime these. Then I'm going to stack that one on top of that one. Going to prime that surface. And I'm going to add some more of my thickened mix. And some more priming. Now I have everything ready to place into my jig. Try and clean this up before the resin hardener mix cures. And that's your part finished. Leave this to cure overnight, release the clamps, then you've got something that can be shaped either as a replacement rib or even as a small hobby project, a tiller for your own boat.